Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, mate?
I am not too bad. I am on my last day of rest before going back
you've had a holiday.
to work. Yeah. I had basically a very well-timed store refit, so I've done nothing for 5 days. It's been glorious.
Yeah, it's and so that's obviously enforced from the workplace, so it's all fully paid, and you know they just basically, and they didn't say to you like, let's do some work in the office or let's do something else. It was just like, off you go, days off.
No, they just closed the shop for 2 days. Perfect, happy days.
Very good. Let me say hello and kia ora and good evening to everybody. If you are someone who has been a part of our whānau in the last couple of weeks and you've been involved in purchasing some of our July merch, got an email today from the printer. It's all underway. It's all good to go. They're getting done at the moment. My objective is to try to get them out by this Thursday, Friday, to hopefully have them to you by the end of the month. Yeah, within the next, well, that would only be 7 days, wouldn't it? But we'll give it a good crack. So if you're someone who's bought some July merch, then it's all underway. It's all going. It's all moving forward. So thank you, and I appreciate you being a part of it. Hey, I'll show you what I bought over the weekend. You're not a fan of Apple products, eh?
Oh, they're good products. Just I am a Samsung fanboy.
These little what are they called? Mac something? Or
MagSafe.
MagSafe batteries. Amazing.
Oh, you need a bigger battery for your iPhone.
It's not just that. It's that when you want, like, when that one day that you go down to 1% because you've been using it for 7 straight days, Chewy, because the battery's amazing. These are so good. Even the guy at the store said he hates them that I bought it from. He says because they don't do a full charge. But I'm like, it's that day when you're out and you're a bit far from home and you're getting down to 1 or 2 or 3%. You just go boom, just to have there until you get to your charging point. It just kind of works, and it's it's nice and easy. Not sponsored by Apple, but I thought I'd just mention something I bought in the
I will say that the MagSafe idea is great, like a universal series of accessories and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, you just hate it, and I'm sorry I mentioned it in front of you, and I'm sure we've just damaged our friendship. Hey, tonight, obviously, there's a massive story in New Zealand going on to do with Kiri Allan. We're going to cover that off quite in a lot of detail. I also want to say thanks so much to all of our patrons for being involved. A couple of new people on the wall of fame there, Chewy. Free Soul is up there in the FUEL. And if people can remember what that stood for, the last 2 letters of the EL is Elon level. FU Elon level. It's kind of appropriate for another conversation we might have to talk about today, and also Angus Wall on the wall in the fuel layer as well. So thanks. If you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to support what we're doing to be in and around, just head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. I want to say again, because we might have some new viewers tonight who don't know much about us. Yes, we are as individuals, big and hairy, but always the idea behind the name was it's like the big hairy audacious goal. I've got a big hairy audacious goal. It was more to me when I started this thing of the big hairy audacious news story, the big hairy news story. Yes, we are big and hairy, and I've already seen people saying, beards. What is that? Let our powers combine. Let our beards combine. Is that the old?
No, because then they get tangled.
Yeah, true. Actually,
it
was a nice night. It was a nice night though, Cherry. I would never forget it with your wife being away. So onwards and upwards. And if you have been a part of that July drop, we have got another one coming next month. And I think one of our ones, Chewy, is going to be, I don't know what year National started, but whatever year they were in power for the first time, like 1950, 1960, it'll be something like pulling up pulling up the ladder since 1962, which I quite like. That's quite a good one. All right. Well, look, let's just talk about this one first, because there's a little shorty to start off with that I think the world over is scratching their heads on. And I've seen that you've already tweeted about this, and that is Elon Musk saying he's changing Twitter Bluebird logo to an X. I feel a little bit chewy, like, you buy Coca-Cola, you've got this brand that the world knows, that's probably one of the strongest things about it, and you go, yeah, I'm going to call it X juice, and change everything about it. I mean, for me, Chewy, the brand, the name, you've actually got in the English Oxford Dictionary the word tweet to mean a product that you make. He's throwing it all away because he wants to call it X. I think in part because he owns the site x.com. He has plans to change the Twitter logo to an X from its famous blue bird symbol, making what would be the largest big change since he bought the social media platform for $44 billion last year. On Sunday, Twitter's billionaire owner said in a series of posts on his account that he's looking to make the change worldwide as soon as Monday. X.com now points to Twitter.com is what he said. And that is apparently, that's a few hours ago, that's what the Twitter headquarters looks like at the moment. I really genuinely don't get it. I don't get why you would take this brand that is now part of our vernacular to tweet something. I don't know if you ever do this, True, but sometimes when I'm sending a text message, I go, I've just tweeted it, because it is literally part of our vernacular. To change it into something that no one knows, I'll X you, I'll X message you, I'll X-ray you. And I wonder a couple of things. I wonder if it'll always be called Twitter no matter what. Whatever it's called, it'll be, come see me on Twitter. He seems to be wanting to put it on the back of some financial platforms and like do a whole meta type thing, but he hasn't got a plan. One thing you could say for Zuckerberg, love him or hate him, is that they do come out with a pretty well-formed package, and they say, here's Meta, this is what it's going to do. Whereas Musk's like, he actually said, if anyone wants to design a logo, send it in, we'll see what happens. I'm like, what is going on here? Thoughts?
So the history of X.com goes back to the company that he formed with Peter Thiel that then became PayPal.
Yeah.
It was originally like some sort of banking platform, not just for payments, but for actual banking at X.com. So he's had that website for ages. It just seems to be flushing an entire brand, an entire, describing words and all of that sort of stuff. All of that's out the window. And I just feel like of all the things that he could solve, this is like you could have a list in front of him. Here's all the things that people have said that we need to fix, or that would make the site better, or that you have said that you want to fix. What do you think? Pick one off the list. And he's gone, I'll think about that. He's wandered down into the car park, sat in his car for a little bit, come back and gone, I've got this old website. We'll call it that. It's just pants shittingly bad. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. As you say, and I think I saw you reply to Elon's tweet, that'll fix the problems, or something like that. It's like, it's almost like, I guess the one thing Facebook did do when they ran away from the word Facebook to start up Meta, there was criticism that the term Facebook had become a bit of an old person's platform, and maybe they were trying to make it a bit sexier and kind of change it up a bit. And maybe, I don't know. I mean, but maybe Twitter is starting to get a bad reputation at the moment because of him, and it's becoming an alt-right kind of mouthpiece again, and moving away from the us libtards who are used to put our genders on there 17 days from Fridays or whatever. But if the brand has been damaged, it's because he's damaged it, and now he's changing it.
It's like Twitter's a garbage fire.
Yeah,
like it's got some of the functionality that I want and need, but just you used to see ads and they'd be for tech companies or financial companies or that sort of thing, and the odd sponsored post from various platforms. Now it's a sea of crypto bros, religious organizations, drop shipping companies like Temu and stuff like that, and clones of that. It's just garbage. There's no quality control on the platform, both from the advertiser base, and he's got, oh, it's free speech, so let the Nazis back on. It's just out the gate. I feel like, it's not so much watching a train wreck, it's being on the train while it's crashing.
Yeah. Full of all sorts of people like that. And speaking of them, some interactions with some of those people who are Nazi adjacent in us today. Very bizarre situation that was. We'll get to that towards the end of the show. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. But something that is worth focusing on, looking on, is sort of our actually, we should just check the text to start off with. Is there anything we want to get up there? Already the text is going bananas because that's what you guys do. I like the one that said something about he calls all his girlfriends ex as well, which I thought was quite good. Yes, I saw that from Rob as well. It's well-formed package. Gareth here saying could be worse, could be spending $400 million rebranding to Woolworths. Although in saying that as well, I mean, Countdown already has Woolworths products in it, so it's a semi-rebrand sort of thing, and we sort of know what it is.
I mean, rebranding something is such a minefield, like, because you are putting a value on that unquantifiable at times.
Yeah.
I know companies that have spent years considering a rebrand. Or when companies merge, you sort of sit there and go, well, which one of these brands that we're going to smash together do people have a better feeling about?
Yeah.
We have no real way of gauging it unless we want to talk to everybody.
And Elon's way is, I like this, I think I'll do this. Gareth has said, I think I'm joining Threads. The thing with Threads at the moment is that's crashing as well. Like, there was quite a lot of uptake at the start, and it slowed significantly. And it seems that people, like, I mean, I'm an example. Jump across here and have a look. I haven't been back to it since probably 2 days after it launched. It's I don't know, even though it started with a hiss and a roar, I don't know if it's going to be any particular competition to what was Twitter. And whatever this new version is, like I said, you imagine getting full control of Coca-Cola and going, that brand that everyone knows and uses and recognizes has become a part of our local, international parlance. And let's just fucking throw that out the window and do something weird because I've got a whim, and we'll see how that lands. It's just bizarre.
There's so much involved. Like you've got to. Gareth actually mentioned what is going to do. Vodafone's recent rebrand to One
New Zealand. Yeah, it's terrible.
Is not great. Their campaign around it is sometimes amazing and sometimes cringe as hell. It's just such a minefield to navigate. Just one thing I noticed. I noticed all of these people coming in and going, oh, something's wrong with my phone. It usually says Vodafone up here. Some of the letters are disappearing, and we noticed it was a countdown. First the V went, then the O went, and then you'd just be left with one. And I was just like, oh, that's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's great. But I mean, a classic case is when they announced that, people immediately pointed that there had been a political party called One NZ, and they were very white nationalist adjacent, shall we say? And it was just like they had a website.
I think TVNZ had a bit of a crack at them for their branding being incredibly similar as well.
Yeah, it's because it's basic, But I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to go too crazy because you piss people off. But I mean, even just jumping onto your browser and typing X, and that's going to go straight there. Apparently, there's a lot of other websites. You mistype that, you're going to a completely different website.
All right. Hey, I have some footage. You may not have seen this, but I have some footage of the moment that Christopher Hipkins heard about Kiri Allan. I've got the footage of him finding out. Would you like to see it?
Go on then.
This is the footage of Christopher Hipkins finding out, getting a phone call last night from Kiri Allan. I don't know how we got this footage of Christopher Hipkins, but this is actual footage of Christopher Hipkins finding out about Kiri Allan.
I don't yell at him. I'm just yelling at my life, you know? I'm like, fuck! No! Fuck!
So that was Christopher Hipkins finding out about Kiri Allan last night. I don't know how they got that footage out of his property, but that was basically what he went through when he found out.
What horrible news to wake up to, though.
Yeah. We're going to go through a bunch of videos here. I've got some stuff from the actual press conferences as well, because as you know, we delve through it all, so you don't have to. We got a part story from TVNZ, a part story from News Hub, and we'll have a look at the, I don't know how you feel about this, Chewy, but to me it kind of feels like, and I think I tweeted this today, I tweeted it, see? That if there's not a significant surge to the Greens, I think this might be all she wrote. This could be the death knell. So we call it death knell, whatever it is. Could be. Although, you know, we accept the idea that if the left votes, the left still wins, but Labor is doing everything they can to stop the left from voting. All right, here's a bit of a crash course from News Hub.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Good evening. Kiri Allan has resigned as a minister after being arrested for a late-night car crash in Wellington. The now former Justice Minister was charged with careless driving and refusing to accompany a police officer, and issued an infringement notice for being over the legal alcohol limit.
Her shock departure has left Labor fighting for the public's confidence just weeks out from the beginning of the election campaign. Political editor Jenna Lynch begins our coverage.
A crunched up ute with busted tyres, evidence of the moment that ended Kiri Allan's ministerial career. Last night she allegedly drove her ministerial issued car under the influence at around 9 p.m, crashing into the vehicle and colliding with the consequences.
Retaining her ministerial warrant was untenable, especially for a Justice Minister to be charged with criminal offending.
The PM got the dreaded call an hour after the crash.
While her actions are inexcusable, I was given information that she was experiencing extreme emotional distress at the time of the incident. My initial concerns last night were for her immediate safety and well-being.
Last night, the details fuzzy.
I couldn't speak to her directly last night, but there was some suggestion that she may have said that she wasn't driving.
Daybreak, clear light, clear facts. She had to go, offering.
So that all that information you've seen from Chippy so far was in the 9:30 a.m. press conference. I'm going to show you some footage from the afternoon one. I'm not saying that therefore it's going to be that different, but there was some misinformation between the parties in the first one. But that's all from the first time he spoke today.
Her resignation in a message to the PM just before an early morning phone call.
That was a difficult conversation. She's clearly not in a good space.
Kiri Allan has been openly struggling with her mental health. It all came to a head yesterday.
Obviously, I'm very sad for Kiri. Kiri is an incredibly talented person who clearly has been battling some demons and has not won that battle.
Christopher Luxon says she shouldn't have been at work.
Personally, I would have wanted some reassurance from a clinician or from someone that actually the individual would be good to come back to work.
I wonder, and I was wondering this today, right? You know how Uffindell appears to be a violent teenage offender? I wonder when he found out that if there was a clinician in family violence and stuff that spoke to Luxon to make sure it was all on board. Or I wonder if it was fine for Luxon to make a decision based on his beliefs and his thoughts there. It feels a little bit snarky, for want of a better word, Chewy.
Well, we've seen other, I'm struggling to put my finger on it, but very much a statement of, I've asked him for his reassurances and they have been provided.
Yep.
Is you know, I'll take him at his word, is something that is often bandied around. The fact that that Chris Hipkins' lack of judgment is apparently not taking one of his senior ministers at her word that she was fine. Now, we've all been in that situation where you go, yeah, I'm fine, and you're not fine. But you can't go, well, you say you're fine, but I need a note from your doctor.
I think that, though, what this may do is this, think about Todd Muller, right? Todd Muller was the leader of the National Party, had a mental health episode, fell over, and he resigned. I'm not going to say it's not uncommon, but this has happened before, mental health issues. I think, though, what you might find is that this is obviously incredibly serious, obviously for Kiri Allan, but also in the context of, potential, and I say potential because innocent until proven guilty, yada, 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 potential criminal activity, is that this should bring into all political parties a new way of doing things around mental health. So I actually don't disagree. The thing is, I don't disagree with Luxon, but the difference is Luxon's saying, well, I would have, and that's horse shit. But what he should be saying is, from now on, I think we should. Like, if he had said it that way, no criticism, because I actually think this will bring a new way of doing things when people have sort of mental health issues within Parliament. But to try and sell the idea that, this is what I would have done, which is complete and utter horseshit, is a bit sort of snarky to me and point scoring around someone's mental health at the moment.
I think he's weaponized it at the soonest opportunity as well, while making all the right noises, his concern for Kiri Allan and all of that. But he's turned it around immediately and pointed it at Chris Hipkins' judgment, which is politicizing the whole thing. And I think you bring up Muller, that's the comparison. Now, he had a very public meltdown as leader, and Ardern was asked for comment, and she just basically went, it has nothing to do with us. We're not making any comment. I wish him all the best. That's it.
The other thing is...
It's a night and day difference.
I'll show you a comment later on from Brooke Van Velden as well. First thing this morning, where she was questioning Chippy forcing, and I think she does use the word forcing her to come back to work too early, and we're going to just negate that as well. We'll keep going with the story, though, to make sure we get to the end of it. We're not going to the whole story, but to the end of the segment.
Don't believe that mental health should disqualify someone from employment.
Allan released a statement saying after taking mental health leave, she believed she was okay to juggle those challenges with the pressure of being a minister, saying, "My actions yesterday show I wasn't okay and I've let myself and my colleagues down. I'm very sorry for my actions, the harm they could have caused and the embarrassment it has placed on the government and my colleagues."
I think, as you would have seen last week, Kiri was showing signs that she had gotten on top of things. I think, it's a terrible set of circumstances.
A terrible set of personal circumstances, leaving Hipkins with a dreadful political circumstance of his own, losing another minister 6 weeks out from the election campaign.
That really hasn't been a part of my thinking at all in the last few hours.
And this is first thing this morning, right? Right. This is 9:30 this morning, so that's probably true. The afternoon conference, he had a lot more details on that. So some people are looking to these comments going, well, what do you mean? I don't believe you, it can't be. But this was like 9:30 this morning, so fair enough.
The ministerial house of cards has been tumbling all year. Jacinda Ardern was first to fold, resigning.
Something about this, and TVNZ actually spells out 9 ministers that have gone. I kind of feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Chewy, tell me if I'm wrong, chat. I kind of feel like there's 3. And they're the ones that are the embarrassing ones. Someone resigning, or someone going to another party, or someone leaving, like in the TVNZ story, I think it talks about our local David Clark choosing to leave, is very different from the 3 ones that I'm not saying 3 is okay, but I do wonder if there's a bit more of a beat up for the numbers being terrible when several of them have just decided to move on, which doesn't seem to be as bad.
Because you always have like a rash of them, of people just basically making the decision at the start of the year, am I going to contest this election?
Yeah.
I know Nationals had a couple as well, but yeah, it's. I think you're right. The embarrassment, the caught out in a lie, or this,
or the shares, or the cabinet handbook. So there's the shares, the cabinet handbook, and there's this. I think are the 3. Not to defend, not defending it. I'm just saying I think there's. Well, just check that I'm not missing one.
In January, Hipkins barely had a month at the helm before more started to crumble. Stuart Nash was sacked come March following breaches of the cabinet manual. Meka Whaitiri dealt a body blow, defecting to Te Pāti Māori in May. Michael Wood fell in June over his shares scandal, and now Kiri Allan.
So
Do you have the confidence of the public?
They elected us.
But again, shuffling the cabinet deck chairs. Ginny Anderson will be the new Justice Minister, while Kieran McAnulty, man of the regions, will take on regional development. Barbara Edmonds picks up Associate Finance, as well as Revenue, relinquished by David Parker a week after the PM killed his wealth tax.
Do you believe that Labor has a chance of winning this year's election now?
Yes.
How can you show the public that you've got it together?
Good line here.
Well, just watch me.
Everybody is watching.
Strong. So I don't think it's as, like, it's not good losing ministers, but TVNZ lists 9 of them, including the ones that are choosing not to go back. So I don't know. It feels that this is serious. It also feels like as there's points being scored. I don't know. A few days ago, Luxon and Mark Mitchell seemed to want to not point score sort of around a tragedy while still point scoring. And this time it just seems it's a free hit. We'll just take it. There doesn't seem to be any mitigating factors at all. Someone in the text mentioned that even Julian Batchelor called him out about it later in that article. That's all we're going to watch from that article. I haven't seen the rest of it. So, yeah. So we've got a TVNZ one to show as well, Chewy. But do you want to throw anything in there before we go to it?
Yeah, Rob Burney with the right-wing attack line of didn't a doctor sign off on her returning to work is insane. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
absolutely. Some clarification from DIY Guru there. To be clear, Kiri Allan wasn't charged with DIC because she was under the legal limit, but over 200 milligrams, which is a misdemeanor.
Can I just say, right? I'm just going to say this really clearly. These are all allegations. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm naive and I'm defending them. I'm saying that because there is a legal process to follow where everything is alleged. You heard in the news story, they said allegedly drove her ministerial car. This is all allegedly and what's been reported. So that's how we need to talk about it, only because there are legal inferences to do with what happens in a courtroom. So just to put that out there for this comment as well.
Yeah, I think that clarification meant, there was a difference, as you said, between the early morning press conference and the later one, the clarification of what the charges were, and it wasn't resisting arrest, it was refusing to go with an officer, and yeah, that one I just mentioned there.
All right, so here's the TVNZ one, and obviously there'll be a little bit of double up, but this is actually not the headline story. This is like part 2 of the story, whereas the News Hub story that we just want was the headline story. Let's have a look at what TVNZ had to say.
And with no new ministers coming into Cabinet, the workload of Kiri Allan's 4 portfolios is being shared around, and it calls into question
let me just say that as well. I heard in the press conference today, there are 28 ministers. Now there's 26. So sharing around those portfolios, it's not like all of a sudden the ministers that are there have got 10 times the work to do. It's gone from 28 to 26. So it's not, it's actually the workload wise, it's not going to be a huge difference. I'm not saying it's okay, just giving you the information so you know that it's, what is that, 2 out of 28, that's less than 10% workload being spread across all other people, something like that.
How long the party and therefore the government can absorb the growing pressure. Deputy Political Editor Mikey Sherman reports.
Ministers flying into Wellington for their usual Monday meeting, faced with an empty seat at the Cabinet table.
It's clearly unacceptable behaviour, but I'm more concerned about Kiri at this time. She's my friend as well as my colleague.
Oh, look, I just hope she gets the support she needs and that she's okay.
What do you make of the events, though, that took place?
Oh, I've got no comment on that and I haven't spoken to her.
Well, I caught up with her last week. We went walking and she said she was ready to come back. But I'm just really sorry what's happened to her and I hope that she gets well.
The party will also be feeling the pressure.
I think in the voters' eyes, parties always are guilty by association when one of their representatives violates public integrity or ethics.
It's the 9th ministerial exit for Labour this year. Jacinda Ardern retired in April. Ministers.
So I'm not saying that TVNZ's been disingenuous here, but for me, you can probably put Mika Whaitiri in there as well, but although that's a choice to go somewhere else, and there was some conjecture around did she chuck her toys because she didn't get her way, but really there's 3. There's 3 that are the ones that are concerning. Again, not to minimise there shouldn't be any, but 5, 6, 7 or 9 is not the concerning number. It's 3 really.
Yeah, it's factually correct, but they're trying to tie together a narrative here.
Yeah. So here we go.
Clark and Opito Seal will leave at the election.
So they've all retired.
And under Chris Hipkins, Phil Twyford was demoted. Mika Whaitiri quit the party. Stuart Nash stripped of his portfolios. Michael Wood resigned. And now Kiri Allan.
The Labour caucus and Cabinet do look down and out at the moment. They are shocked by this. Obviously, I think they've lost their mojo.
Constant turmoil leading to growing frustration.
Minister, how disappointed are you in what's happened today?
happens. Sad for her, but untenable for her to continue on, so there's not much else to add to that.
With less than 3 months until the election, every crack and chink could cripple Labor.
Here we are yet again, another week, discussing drama and personnel issues within the Labor government. It's a Labor government. It is not focused on the New Zealand people.
A government under increasing pressure to get its house in order.
So there you go. You get to see all the little headlines that I watch. So there's lots to talk about. I want to show you some of the stuff from Chloe Swarbrick speaking with Brooke Van Velden this morning on breakfast, just as it was breaking. I also want to show you a few things from the press conference. But right now, let's just see if there's anything you want to add in. I do want to talk about what this means for the election. I do feel like that this... I mean, I've said it the whole way through. I'll continue to say it. If the left votes, the left wins, without question, still continues on. But I also think that the left are the fractured group that also run away from voting. If it's like they get slightly offended, they take off. They run to the hills. And Labor is making it very difficult, I think, for many to go and want to get behind them, because the narrative that's being painted, fair or not, you can see how it would stick by the National Party. You know, the whole chaos thing, you can see how it would stick in people's minds, Chewie.
Yeah, the National Party that's had 7 leaders in 7 years.
Yeah,
but
that's the narrative, you see. The narrative's been pointed the other way. It's like we talked last week about the narrative on youth crime. National has made it stick. So remember, this is a game on some level. I don't want to minimise it like it's a fun game, but politics and perception is reality so often. And this is a game, and they're playing by the rules of the game. National is winning the battle of the messaging, and Labor is having to respond to that, which is not a good place to be for an incumbent government. And whilst I said on Twitter over the weekend, I took someone up on, they thought that they would be a 10-seat majority for National. I was like, I'll take that bet. Shit, I'll give you 2-1 on that bet. Any day of the week, if you think it's going to be a 10-seat majority. Got to tell you, if a couple more knocks of the Labor blimmin' tree, a couple more slashes with an axe at the Labor tree as to where they're at. It may not be 10, but it won't be 1. It'll be an easy win.
Yeah, what the election's 5 weeks away?
More than that. I think there's 5 weeks left of the House sitting. I think it's about 12 weeks till the election.
Right. Just a flip comment. Can you imagine getting up early in the morning, jumping on a plane? Maybe you found out about that before you got on the plane. Maybe you were hit with it coming through the gates. I don't know about you. Early morning flights are the worst. My brain's not even working.
Yeah.
But to run the gauntlet of media straight away and come up with a coherent statement on the spot, Jesus. There's been a couple of comments in the chat about dirty politics, that this is literally a tactic straight out of it. Pouncing on a weaker member of the party and just grinding away until they break. I encourage everybody to read Dirty Politics. It's enlightening. Gareth makes the point here: if Luxon can't win given all this upheaval, then that's a bit embarrassing for National. Shows that they either have no popular policies or an unpopular leader. I would argue that they have both.
Both, yeah. I mean, to be honest, this is the thing, right? National have won in the narrative game. New Zealand is buying their narrative, and even though they're buying their narrative, it's still a 50-50 game. So they already haven't got ahead in the polls. And remember, I think it's pretty fair. In fact, maybe I should do some research. That the Greens, for example, typically pick up a seat after the election, and the Greens don't poll as well leading up to the election because 22-year-olds don't answer poll questions. So actually 50-50 at the moment, you might actually say, technically, looking at historically speaking how it works, that's better for the left than the right. Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to be a left win. I've been saying this for weeks, that I feel like if you're going to place a bet, National is the favourite at the moment. I don't know by how much, but it certainly was 51-49. Maybe it's 53-47 now, but meaning percentage-wise. But I'm just intrigued as to where we're going to go from here. And I think that to echo that point, if they're already winning the narrative game and Labor on some levels having to follow National's narrative and they're still not beating them hands down, that already says that about the National Party like today, let alone what's going to happen next.
I think it shows, like we talk about winning the narrative battle, is how You know, you don't have to have sensible policies. You don't have to have a fully costed pitch. You don't have to be across your numbers. If you can just tie together a narrative of like, look at these guys, they're a shambles.
Yeah.
Then for a lot of people, that's enough. And that's scary.
Yep. All right. Any other chats before I move to Brooke Van Velden and Chloe and your queen?
No, we must hear from the Queen.
Must hear from the Queen. All right. So was asked, this is the news had just broken. And so this is basically off the cuff from these two female MPs. And Chloe was asked about actually being a female MP, the pressures of that.
Something that I've said many times before is I can't tell you what it's like to be Winston Peters. I can't tell you what it's like to be anybody other than myself. You know, I still somehow, as of June, am now 29 years old, but still our youngest.
Dude, she's 29. Did you get that? Did you pick up on that? She's 29.
In this term in Parliament, as I was obviously last term as well. And to that effect, I think that, you know, again, at a broader kind of thematic level, when you don't look or sound like what, you know, somebody presumes is the archetype of a politician, you have to work a little bit harder to be considered as on the same level. And that's probably the main reflection that I kind of take away, you know. We do a whole lot of swatting, we do a whole lot of work in order to not make any mistakes. And when those mistakes are made, a lot is made of those mistakes. So, yeah, I think when we talk about a House of Representatives, but we kind of contrast that with how so many people are disenfranchised by and disenchanted by politics, we kind of actually have to grapple with that cognitive dissonance. Who do we want our politicians to be? Do we want them to be human beings with flaws intact? And if that's the case, then we have to grapple with how we respond to that as a general public.
But there is obviously a line there when we hold people to account in power and we expect them to represent us.
And if I can just be really clear on that, obviously the actions and the kind of offences, as we reported this morning, are completely out of line. And yeah, I do need to be incredibly clear on that. But again, I think in the broader context of mental ill health, that this should be a wake-up call.
And then we'll go on to just a conversation with Brooke Van Velden asking about this. And really this is kind of the first step. So anyway, this is like potentially minutes, if not hours after the news breaking, and already ACT via Brooke Van Velden has a narrative against Chippy, painting him as the bad guy. I'll show you that.
Brooke, you are on the opposite side of the ledger in terms of political ideology, but yet, so you can't really come out and attack someone here. You have to show some understanding, I guess, of it. So how will you play this going forward in an election cycle?
Yeah, look, I seriously hope that Kiri does get the help and the time that she needs. And certainly I'm not going to be saying anything about what she's been going through because we don't actually know what she's been going through. But at any time, whether that's in an election period or during a normal part of a year, the people expect that ministers will do the best that they can do. And I seriously question how it was possible that she was told to come back to work or forced to come back to work when she...
Really important words. Told to come back to work, forced to come back to work. That's the narrative that ACT was pitching this morning. May have changed, but first thing in the morning, told to come back to work, forced to come back to work. We're going to show you some footage about that as well.
Wasn't in a clear headspace. Maybe some questions need to be asked about why Chris Hipkins asked her back or what actual process went behind the scenes that she came back to work when she clearly was not in a good headspace to do that job as the Justice Minister.
Or is this probably a time to be talking about the topic, not the personality?
I think so. I think more than anything, what we have here very clearly who is somebody who has gone through immense distress. We have acknowledgement of a wrong and illegal doing. And we also now have the opportunity to reflect on the broader kind of system and our parliament and the pressures that people are under, but also, as I was just saying before, the choice that is in front of New Zealand is this election. And I hope that that's the topic that we focus on in the next few weeks and months.
Thank you both for coming in this morning and tackling a pretty tough topic to talk about at short notice.
So I actually, before we go into it, I think it's important to probably play this first comment from the Prime Minister, where they talked about, remember what Brooke Van Velden just said, she was told to come back, and she used the word forced or forced to come back into work. I'll just play this clip for you. I've got like 3 clips to play from the press conference, but I just want to play the first one just so people know you don't get left with that thing hanging. Like politicians like to put an idea out there and leave it hanging. You know, was she forced or told? Well, this is what the Prime Minister said today about that.
Prime Minister, did Kiri Allan come back to work too soon?
She was offered more time off and indicated that she wanted to get back to work.
What impact does this have on the Labor Party, given that we're only 3 months out from the election, and how worried are you?
Ultimately, this isn't about me or about us, it's about New Zealanders, and they want to see us focused on cost of living, on law and order, on the issues that matter to them, and that's where our focus will be.
You're not paying any attention that we're 3 months out from an election?
Of course, politics matters, but actually I think what New Zealanders want to see the government focused on are the issues that are important to them.
Why did you just take...
So there you go. Very clearly she was offered more time. So not told to come back, not forced to come back. Kiri Allan was offered more time and she said she was good to go. But the narrative from Brooke Van Velden this morning will be in the media scape. It will be getting clipped and used, and those words
it's
are
the
now
same
out there.
narrative that Luxon's going for as well, questioning Hipkins' judgment. So yeah, you can see the narrative that they're trying to tie together there. It's shit. It's politics, but it's just so shit. I really feel for the woman behind all of this. You know, I feel for a lot of people it'll just get lost in the game of a pre-election political landscape, but that's someone in crisis.
Yeah.
And who was it that says there? A row here. Kiri Allan's obviously a very dark space, and I hope the media don't chow down and push her over the edge. Yeah, I have a very real fear about that. I mean, by all accounts, she was an excellent minister. You know, the story of her getting her cancer diagnosis and having to deal with earthquake and a tsunami on the same day is just mental. There's not a lot of people that could fucking manage that. You know?
And then there was the partnership breakup, and then, you know, so, and obviously something happened over the weekend. There was an episode of what I don't know, but that seems
I don't know.
Sent you to a space, a dark space.
If you can come back from this. But if someone can, I certainly hope she can.
This is the podcast, sorry, the press conference from the afternoon. There was a moment in this that I thought Chippy also did. It was very strong. Like, I watched it and I was just like, question, answer. Then there was a moment where you kind of went, bit of steel, a bit of pucker in there as well. I'll show you this bit when he was basically being asked about, you know, how can you possibly win this thing?
Do you believe that Labor has a chance of winning this year's election now?
Yes. Why? Because we're just getting started with the campaign, and there's a lot more that we have to offer in the forthcoming campaign, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to set that out.
How can you show the public that you've got it together?
Well, just watch me.
Strong, yeah? Strong, like boom. And I'm not saying that, you know, that it's as simple as that. Now they're back in the driver's seat, but it was a strong message. One other thing that I'll play as well now, this is another, it's only 60 seconds, but the questions around mental health in the workspace. I think that Chippy made a really good point about workplaces in general and what should eliminate people from a workspace. See, none of this was shown in the sort of 4-minute news clips. That's why I want to bring it to you so you get a full context of what was being talked about. So this is Chippy talking about mental health in the workplace. And I think this is strong as well. This is a really impassioned, accurate, strong position to be taking. Forget about Kiri Allan, but just about mental health in the workplace overall.
Minister, do you see these questions that go to the heart of your political judgment to bring her back? Do you see these as fair game, or is it a bit unedifying, you know, less than 24 hours after a pretty serious incident with somebody that, you know, has mental health issues?
I like to think right the way through this that I have handled the situation fairly, with compassion and with respect. I don't believe that mental health should disqualify someone from employment, and it shouldn't disqualify someone from employment in this building, and it has not done in the past. I think what is important is that people are supported. I believe that Kiri has been supported here. And wherever she has needed time off, we have given her time off. I've given her time off. In fact, I encouraged her to take more time.
So that's just re-echoing those points, not specifically responding to Brooke Van Velden, but this idea about her being forced back.
Ultimately, people can make politics of this, which appears to be what they are doing. I think they should think about the message that sends to other people in New Zealand who are struggling with their mental health. Yeah. If the message is that someone who confesses or reveals that they're struggling with mental health should be immediately sacked, I think that's going to make the problem worse rather than better.
The politics of this, sorry, just to be clear?
Well, the people who are suggesting that she shouldn't have still been in the job.
There you
go. So strong, yeah? But I'm not saying strong. I'm hoping not that I'm just trying to say. So he got political points. I mean, literally a strong message to people out there in the workplaces, bosses who have got people working for them with mental health issues, people with mental health issues in the workplace. A strong answer. Like good. Well done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But still.
So
God,
let's have a look at that because we get to pontificate a bit now, Chewy, is what this means. Like, what does this mean for the election? What does this mean? Like, I tweeted today that I thought that if we don't see a fairly significant swing to the Greens, in other words, picking up what Labour's going to lose. So what's going to happen now is either people will drift away, some 1%, 0.5%, 1/10 of 1%, I don't know, but this will turn some people off Labour. If it doesn't turn them on to the Greens, it's going to be very problematic for the left coming up to this election.
Yeah, no, I agree. We've spoken in the past about how you've always got the middle of your support that's never going to change. No matter what goes on with the party, always vote Labour. And then there's the sliver on the right-hand side of the Labour Party, and then there's the sliver on the left-hand side of the Labour Party. I think this and the other things that have gone on over the last couple of weeks will drive more people to the right and more people to the left. It's going to shrink Labour's share, definitely. There's a portion of the electorate that want to vote for the winner, whether they agree with them or not. Really,
for sure.
It's almost like if you pick the winner, you win the prize. Prizes.
You get to say, I voted for them, even though they're ruining our health system. I voted for them.
Yeah, it's for political tragics such as us. It's going to be interesting to see how out of whack our predictions are going to be. Am I still hanging my hat on Greens at 15%? Who knows? Stay tuned.
Yeah. I just think that, I don't know. I for me personally, I feel like that this is. I feel like it's going to be like the gradient has just got a little bit steeper up that hill. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we all know you can still make it to the top of the hill, even though it gets a bit steeper. It's got a little bit steeper. That's how it feels today. Because what's happening, unfortunately, is that, and I say it like this, whether their narrative is fair or not, the right narrative about the left is being proven in the eyes of the public correct. Now, whether that's a fair narrative or not, it's kind of irrelevant, but it's sort of being proven. And we all know, and I've said it before, and I say it over and over again, that the right do politics better. The left are more fractured and are more apathetic. And at some point, people who like to vote for the winners will believe the narrative enough. When I say some people, when I say people will, a sector of the voters will go, oh, there's no point. What's on TV?
Yeah, that I worry about. Because, I mean, we see that in the local body stuff, right? People think it's not important, and then you get the terrible turnouts and the terrible candidates because of that. You get terrible governments when people aren't invested in it. That's why when it was a close race, it was like, hey, every vote counts, and you can't just point at it and go, well, your vote doesn't matter. It matters more than it's ever done. I still think that's the case.
For sure.
I think what this has put a real edge on is James Shaw's comments that the wealth tax is a bottom line for the Greens.
Yeah.
And that they'd be happy to sit in the crossbenches if Labour isn't going to come to the party. That threat becomes a lot heavier now. doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is,
Labor would be looking at that going, shit, we need all the help that we can, but we've stuck a flag in this and said that we're not going to do it. And now we're in the position of having. See, that's what made it such a dumb. Why would you rule something like that out? Just yes, National were always going to smack you around with it, but as we've seen now, even when they ruled it out, National are still smacking them around with it. Luxon said today, I bet the wealth tax is back on the table if they get it. So why rule it out?
Yeah.
Or more to the point, just fucking do it. Because if you're afraid of National doing it, they're already doing it.
But why rule it out? Mostly, like I've said a dozen times, because it's a popular policy. The majority of New Zealanders want to see us in, so why rule it out?
So James Shaw can now hold Chippy's feet to the fire and going, come on, man. Come on, you know it's a good idea. You know the people want it. And you need our help.
You know that I've said I can't vote for a party who has actively said they'll sit cross benches?
Yeah.
The Greens haven't said that. The Greens have said we may have to consider.
You sure?
No, they've said we may have to consider.
Okay.
Whereas Top has said when we get in, we are sitting across the benches. There's a difference. I don't think the Greens will sit cross. If there's a chance for the Greens to form a government with Labor, I don't think they'll sit cross benches. I just don't. But and they haven't said it like Top said it. Okay, anything in there, because the chat's been going bananas. Anything in there before we get to our last story about this this protester at a Julian Batchelor anti-co-governance thing being assaulted?
There are so many chats. And it's been moving so fast, I haven't actually started any of them. So let's crack on and we'll recap.
Right. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard or seen the footage that's been going around the interweb on the weekend. Our good mate Kelvin Morgan has it up on his page. This lady's name, I had it written down before. I apologise. Have a look in the people will be able to see
Victoria.
Victoria. I had it written in the chat, but in the thing. Victoria, who is I'm going to turn this down because if I open up my thing, it'll start playing. I just want to mention her name correctly. Sorry.
Victoria
Jakobs. Victoria Jakobs is the protester. Yep, she's gone into disrupt. She's gone into protest. You wouldn't say she's gone into peacefully protest. It's certainly not peaceful. And if you haven't seen it yet, you've been under a bridge. This is what happened to Victoria Jakobs when she protested.
Touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! You hit me!
So not to talk it down or to say it's annoying. It's supposed to be annoying, but we'll watch what happens for a while. Blows the whistle, and then look. I actually think this guy approaches her in the correct way. I don't think he does anything. He's talking to her. He's probably saying it's time to leave. You need to leave. Doesn't do anything. She doesn't go anywhere. He says again. He's talking to her. It's probably time to leave. Probably time to move on. We want you to leave. We're asking you to move out. You know, it's time to get out of here. Doesn't touch her, doesn't do anything. Appropriate response from the grey-haired gentleman. And then other people get involved. Here's one of them. Here we go. And this is where it starts. Grabs her face. And then...
Oh, Jesus.
Leave me alone!
Grabbed by the leg.
Don't touch me, you're assaulting me!
You shouldn't be here, lady. You were warned.
Okay, this is a really important thing. This is hard to hear, right? I encourage you to go to Kelvin's Twitter feed and have a listen. But someone shouts out, pull her pants down. Someone in there. See if you can hear it. I hear it clearly because I've got my headphones on. But have a listen again.
You shouldn't be here, lady. You were warned. Pull her pants down.
Right there. Pull her pants down.
Do not say that.
And there someone stands up for her.
Sorry, did you hear him say pull her pants down? Don't touch me! Wait on the cops! Wait for the cops!
So that's the footage that actually happened. Now,
I said pull her pants down.
Now, that's an assault. Like, without question, that's an assault. There's no other way to describe that. And we've had a little bit of interaction today, Chewy. Well, I've had a little bit of interaction today, Chewy, because I put out a tweet earlier today that says this quite clearly. It says, if you were someone who claimed the tomato juicing of Posey Parker was an assault, and you don't have the same standard for this, then you've eliminated yourself from public discourse due to your hypocrisy. Now, we were a show that said the punch at Albert Park was definitely an assault. Well, I want to be careful because of the court proceeding, but appeared to be an assault, 100%. And that the tomato juicing of Posey Parker was the technical definition of an assault. What you've just seen is the technical definition of an assault. So people who have, because what you're seeing, Chewy, is inconsistent people. See, we're consistent here, right? That's one of our benefits. We call balls and strikes. We walk and chew gum. We said that the tomato juicing appeared to fulfill the criteria, and I'm using the word appeared because there's a court setting, appeared to fulfill the criteria of an assault. Right? That's what we said. Well, that's what I said, and I think people who were here kind of agreed with me. That also appears to fulfill the criteria of an assault. Yet the people who were screaming bloody murder about Posey Parker's situation with the tomato sauce or tomato juice are now coming out going, she was asked to leave, trespassing, and she didn't, fool around, fuck around, find out. And it's ridiculous. And you'd probably have to say there's a freeze frame there, and we all know with freeze frames it can be a bit more beat up. But, physical contact, grabbing heads, grabbing faces, grabbing legs. On the level of assaults, the Albert Park punch, the worst of the three, then this, and then the tomato juice. Right? If you were going to put them in some kind of, like if there was like murder, what do they call it? First degree murder, second degree, like first degree assault, second degree assault, third degree assault. This is the middle one. It's an assault. It looks like an assault to me. It has the appearance of an assault to me. And if you're someone in that camp who was going off about what happened to Posey Parker on stage with the tomato juice, and you're not going off about this in the same way, then you're a hypocrite and you've just eliminated yourself and your opinions from the public discourse, Chewy.
Yeah, and people are going to bush lawyer the hell out of this. I can see it already happening in the chat. If your assault ends up with just a dry cleaning bill, it's really low down on the scale. If your assault loosens some teeth, it's a little bit further up. And then if your assault means that on camera you got hit 5 or 6 times in the head, well, that's right at the top. But I mean, I remember as a kid being told, don't pull chairs out from behind people. Like, just the mob mentality of it all, how quickly that ramped up. Again, the whole pull her pants down, that's just some primary school shit right there. Like, this is just one other aspect of these Julian Batchelor tours that it's a really ugly part of New Zealand that I'd much rather not have.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can debate, look, technically it was a private meeting, and, I'm not going to get into that because, protest is annoying. It is disruptive. But there were better ways to do that. People mention, you can have a bouncer throw someone out. A bouncer has a code of conduct and training to do that. Those two fuckers didn't.
Well, I actually think, because I've read a little bit of the transcriptions coming around today, I actually think they were told by the police. I could be corrected on this, but I think I've read that they were told by the police in the meeting if there was any protesters to wait for the police to deal with it. So that was actually the instruction as well. People have talked about reasonable force. Reasonable force is to do with when you're defending and protecting yourself or someone else. It's not to do with removing someone from, from removing a protester by grabbing the top of the head or dragging by the legs. Now, yes, there is some legislation around what you can do to remove them, but I don't think anywhere, because you have to remember, assault is also a technical thing, right? that anywhere any court would go, oh, well, you know, if you want to remove someone from your meeting, you're allowed to assault them while you're doing it. Yeah, I don't think it works that way. Maybe you can walk them out. Maybe you could, you know, but that was the appearance to me. Again, I'm trying to be actually fair. Maybe you'll get angry with me for trying to be fair to you, but I've said the appearance of an assault with the tomato juice. And I'm saying the appearance of an assault for this. To me, I'm not saying it's the same standard or level of assault, but we try and call balls and strikes. And I think that you need to either denounce both and go, no, they're both fine, or you need to say they both are on some level. You can't go, well, that one was and this one's not, because that's hypocrisy, and that's ideology over intelligent debate. And if you're an ideologue who can't see, when like we sit on the left, we're open and honest about that. We were with the people who were protesting the Posey Parker event. Now, I still think no one should have turned up. It would have been a better thing to do. Like, that would have been the tactic I would have done. And I've seen that Posey Parker's talking about coming back to New Zealand, and there is already a vibe out there that no one turn up, no oxygen is the best way to starve an event. But in saying that, the people who are on the side of protesting her message, that's our side, but we can still sit on that side of the protest and go, that shouldn't have happened and that shouldn't have happened. Like, just like we can sit on the opposite side, which is what we're doing now, and go, that shouldn't happen. We're being consistent. Like, I feel a bit mad, Chewy, like I'm going mad. Like, I don't want to be so arrogant to say we're the only ones, but it sort of feels like that on some level, that everyone else is kind of supporting that one and denouncing that one, or supporting that one and denouncing that one. And I'm like, it's not, you don't lose the battle to go, that was wrong. That event was wrong. Now let's get on with the battle.
And watch our show from that event. Like, we thrashed the shit out of this. I'm still on the fence on you know, whether pouring juice on someone is an assault or you know, and like for these meetings, like I see people going, it's a private meeting, you can do what you want. You know, they shouldn't be protests because it's a private meeting. It's not a private meeting. He's inviting the entire community.
Yeah.
And you can't just hide the most despicable stuff behind a private meeting. I'm not going to go and have a fucking Nazi rally and say, I don't know why people are so angry. It's a private meeting that just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, I think people have the right to counter-protest. You know, if we're talking about Posey Parker or whatever, you know, my first reaction was, oh, that is very funny that she got tomato juice poured on her. But in the same breath, I'm going, I wish that didn't happen, because that's going to be the narrative about this from now on, rather than an overwhelmingly successful counter-protest that showed the best way to counter-protest is with happy noise.
And look, Posey Parker, and we talked about this, Chewy, and we were really upfront about it before she came. We were like, you know, the government was talking about, was there a reason for her not to come in? Was there a danger to the community? Was it going to be, I can't remember the exact technical term, but was there going to be, you know, upheaval or whatever? And we're like, of course there is, but they let her in, and there was. But we were saying from day one, guys, if you guys turn up to this, when I say we're on that side of the protest, we weren't actually there. But if you guys turn up and give her fodder, she will fundraise off it. She will get profile off it, and it will, speaking again like politics, it will further the narrative that she's trying to sell. Now, I don't want to sit here and say, don't follow your passions and do it the way you want to do it. But I am going to say you should be aware of the way you do it and how it will be then sold and spun. And I do think, again, that she's talking about coming back to New Zealand. I read something or saw a tweet the other day. No oxygen. Like, no oxygen would be the best thing, because no noise, no media coverage, no oxygen. I mean, we've just had like stuff.co.nz, the Herald, all these places not run a Family First advert that was, you know, arguably transphobic. Do you think they're going to go along and want to give her a bunch of oxygen as well? Of course they're not, unless everyone else turns up and there's a melee.
Yeah, see, look, this is a debate that has been going on for many, many years in the things that I've been involved with. And there's even been very firm discussions within my own household about the best way to attack these, when Julian Batchelor decided to throw his little private meeting on my friggin' birthday, about whether you go or whether you stay away.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons, of course, to both arguments, but I think in all of my experience combating white nationalism, combating all of these horrible bigots out there, is that they sit in their echo chambers and they believe that the majority of people agree with them. If you can get a bigger counter protest to show them that they don't have as many people as they think they are, I think that's incredibly effective. But it is really hard to keep a counter protest or a protest of any stage on message. And that's what I think Dudley here in Dunedin did really, really well for against the Destiny Church.
Destiny Church, exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
that it was a dance party, a celebration. It just so happens that it's happening in the same place that they're going to do it. And I think a lot of the more successful protests against Julian Batchelor have been the same things. What a coincidence that our noisy PA-driven party playing Māori songs is happening right outside your venue. It's just a crazy coincidence.
Let me just pause for a sec, bro. Pause for a sec, because I was at that event that you're talking about, and I've got a TikTok of it, and we'll show people. Like, I was just thinking before you said it. Before you said it, I'm like, turn up to Posey Parker's event, turn your backs on her, and have a dance party. So this was in Dunedin, right? And this is, you can see across the road here if you're watching. If you're listening, get online. I don't know, 20 or 30 protesters, maybe, or not protesters, but whatever, the Destiny Church people. And this is what the people of Dunedin did. Right.
We'll be there Friday night.
So that's the Destiny Church guys. I'll probably turn it down because you might hear tub thumping to get us kicked off. On the other side of the octagon, 250 having a dance party with their backs turned. Look at that, the number of those people. It's just like, it was absolutely a brilliant way to do it. Message made, no oxygen, no one was listening to them. They were all checking in on the people having the dance party to tub thumping. So. They got
mad.
Yeah, they got real mad. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to, pontificate away and tell people that they should do it our way. But that was effective, and it was clever. Let's also do this. Sorry, you go. Yep.
That was also, from my understanding, the initial plan for the counter protest for Parker Posey as well, both in Auckland and Wellington. That it was going to be a noisy celebration in the same park, the public park that she was deciding to have her rally, even to the fact where they had designated zones for people's comfort levels. Do you want to show support, but you don't want to be close to them? Cool. Well, then you're down this area. It's just a dance rave, whatever. And then there's a mixed zone. And then for people with signs and that want to do a little bit of shouting down at the other end, but also don't engage, don't touch people, don't do this. And it got out of control. People pulled up fences and the crowd mingled because there wasn't enough crowd control at that end of the park. Nobody expected the numbers that they were going to get either. So, this is one of the things. A lot of organisation needs to go into a successful protest, and the one in Auckland against Parker Posey was thrown together in about a week.
Posey Parker? Parker Posey.
Posey Parker. One of them's an actress and one of them's a horrible bigot. I'm probably doing someone a disservice.
Here's Victoria Jakobs, is that right? And this was her speaking after she'd got ejected from dragged out by her feet from the event.
Okay, so what happened, Victoria?
So there's a co-governance racist meeting, and I went in. I managed to sneak in with a sign, and when that guy Julian started talking, I got my sign out, and my sign said, "Hate speech is not free speech on a te tiriti," and I had a whistle and I started blowing it. So then, firstly, a woman came and tried to grab my sign and grabbed my whistle out of my mouth and grabbed me, and then some men, at least 3 men, grabbed me at different times and dragged me, and the final man was dragging me out by the leg and by my jeans, and they were coming down and people were shouting, "Pull her pants off." It is disgusting.
I'm so sorry.
I know, that is, and I knew I would get escorted out by the police. They didn't go and get the police, which is what they were supposed to do, to escort me out. They actually assaulted me and dragged me out.
Yeah.
So I knew going in there that I would get asked to leave and I wouldn't leave, and then the police would come and escort me. I was fully expecting that. I was not expecting to be assaulted by multiple people in there. I know.
And you feel like you've been
So I
you've got
think when they
injured.
were trying to grab the whistle, it's been bleeding in here, but I feel like my teeth are loose or definitely sore in the bottom teeth there. Hopefully not coming out.
Yeah. Thank you, Victoria.
So there you go.
There's a couple of comments there saying that she was asked to leave and she didn't, so therefore people were justified in throwing her out. That's not how it works.
She was asked to leave,
not how it works.
so she was assaulted. Yeah, that's not how the law works. Sorry, dudes, dudes and dude
There,
heads.
there were police at the event. Like I've had to ask people to leave before, and you can't put hands on people. That's what they drum into you, sir. You need to leave. You need to leave. You need to leave. If you don't leave now, I'll have someone remove you. And the person that will remove you will be dressed in blue and will not be me. You know, and that's why, because that's what their job is. They were there. So there is no excuse for this mob mentality, this mob assault of two men against a single woman sitting in a chair. It was annoying. There was no harm being done, though. You know, if people didn't like the whistle, they could move away from the whistle. You know, there was no need for, like, if she was in there with a piece of wood threatening people, sure, there's an argument for tackling her and dragging her out. There was no need for that.
Yeah.
It was an assault.
And for people who are and I'll say it like this because it's how it feels, for the hypocrites who are defending the action, if it was the other way round, you wouldn't be. And I know you wouldn't be. You're being disingenuous, and I don't accept your premise, because if it was the other way around, if it was your person supporting, I don't know, let's just say you're all evangelical Christians. If it was an evangelical Christian in there because there was a bunch of Democrats talking about how to eat babies every week and keep looking young, and it was an evangelical Christian in there who was blowing a whistle saying, you know, protect babies, and they got dragged out and done like that, you'd be like, they're assaulted. So just let's stop fucking around with definitions. It was very clear that it was an overstretch, and that there was a process to follow which involved the police removing a protester. An annoyance, 100%, that's the truth. But let's not try and play word games tonight. There's no point. We've been very consistent in the show. When it appears to be an assault, even a very minor one, like the tomato juice likely was, we call it out on it. So we're not going to play the game that everything there was fine, because assault is basically unwanted touching. Like, that's basically what an assault is. Like, at its most simple, it's unwanted touching, right? And no one can say that was wanted touching. No one can say anyone's life was in danger. Like, I mean, I've never probably said this publicly, but I've worked as a bouncer. Club in Auckland called Euphoria. I used to work there, right? And there are different rules for when you actually feel that there is danger, that you can apply a certain amount of force. There was no danger there. There was an annoyance. When there's an annoyance, you don't get to assault someone out the door, right? So let's just not fuck around with these stupid things and saying everything was okay there. That might be your opinion, but when it comes to the law, right, that appeared to be an assault to me. I go as far as to say that was an assault, because there was unwanted touching in a moment where there was no danger present. There was an annoyance, there was a loud noise, there was no danger, no one was at risk in getting injured, and the person was manhandled out. That's an assault. Simple.
There's one comment that I want to jump on with both boots here. Citizens' arrests are legal.
It's pointless.
Let's go through that, shall we?
If you feel you must.
Private citizens had the power to make an arrest in the following circumstances: if the crime is being committed at night, if the crime being committed is punishable by 3 years imprisonment or more,
what crime?
Or if a person is attempting to escape from someone trying to make an arrest. It happened at night. The other three aren't there.
Well, there's no crime.
What should I say when making an arrest? When making a citizen's arrest, you should inform the person that you're doing so for the particular crime in question, and that you're taking them to the nearest police officer. That didn't happen either. Yeah, so your comment is bullshit.
It's pointless anyway, because there was no crime. Like there is a metric or a standard for a criminal activity. There was no criminal activity happening. No crime had been broken. So there's no citizen's arrest if there's no crime, no matter what it actually is.
Yeah.
So
there
we go.
That was just mob justice, the start of something really, really ugly. And I think that mirrors what we've seen from Julian Batchelor's tour of bigotry right throughout the country. Some of the worst people are going there because it's being led by the worst person.
Yep. All right. I think we're done for tonight, guys. I appreciate it. If you want to, if there's any text you want to highlight there, Chewy, we can do that in a tick. I'll just do this to start off with and say thanks to our patrons. If you enjoy what we do, if you want to be a part of what we do, you can head to patreon.com/Big Hero News. Also, remember, you have an opportunity to listen to this as an audio podcast if you're doing that right now. Hi, welcome to your ear holes. This podcast. We put it up on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you are someone who listens to audio podcasts and you have the option to pick how you want to do it, we'd love to have you as a listener on Apple Podcasts because that helps our algorithms. That also puts us in the Apple charts, which makes a difference. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and just look up #BHN. You will find us super, super easily. Right. I'm done. Is there anything else you want to get to in the chat there, Chewy? No tangents tonight, please, sir.
No. I think we're all good. The chat has been fair flying, thanks to a couple of new arrivals in the chat. Fly the friendly skies.
Let me just say this very, very, very clearly to our chat. We don't like to ban people. We are happy for debate and conversation to happen. But if you're an obvious troll, we've probably, banned 3, 4, 5 people in 18 months, Chewy? Like, not a lot. If you're an obvious troll and you are pushing a narrative versus having a conversation, in other words, if you're not willing to engage, like the message that you just put up to that person, we've explained that away, that conversation's over. You're welcome to have an opinion now, but that conversation's over because we've just explained it. There's no citizen's arrest. There's no crime. It's over. If that continues on and on and on and on and on and on and on, then you become a troll. And then if we think that your input into the chat is not a net positive, doesn't mean it has to be agreeable to us, but a net positive to the community, then that's when it happens. Which, like I say, hardly ever happens. Once or twice. Other than the night that Jacinda retired. When Jacinda retired, we had to get rid of a few people because that was for obvious reasons, because they came and found us for that one reason. But other than that, there's probably only been 1 or 2 the whole time we've been doing this. So just a little heads up. We're respectful, and you're welcome to be here with your own opinion.
All I've ever said is just be respectful of each other. There can be a robust discussion, absolutely. Yeah. But as long as we don't descend into Facebook name calling and stuff like that, then I'll generally let people go.
All right.
But yeah.
All right, team.
Don't ruin the vibe.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hero News. And remember, it's good to see with the numbers that some of you bought a friend tonight. This is what we do. We're like Avon calling. We sell it to 2 people. You sell it to 2 people, and so on, and so on, and so on. That was Wella, wasn't it? Wella woman. You're probably too young for that, Chewy. You can tell a Wella woman by the way she wears her hair. And they tell 2 friends, and they tell 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. So we'll see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Bring a friend. And other than that, be well, be safe, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you back here with us in about 23 hours. All right, team. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.